Controversial opinion, but I think that most influencers are going to end up going broke, and I'm going to explain to you why I know this. I'm saying most, not all. Just keep that in mind. It's pretty comparable to being an athlete, a famous athlete. Just keep that in mind while I'm speaking, because we have real stats from athletes. We don't have as many stats from influencers. I went to an event 7 years ago, and this lives just rent-free in my mind. It was hosted by a popular Instagrammer called The Fat Jewish, and if you don't know who that is, then I think it just kind of further proves the point. And at this event, he explained that what happens to famous people is one of two things. Either your platform is fleeting, so think like eventually in sports, like you retire or you might get an injury, but like think of for influencers like Vine, that what happened to Vine, or TikTok potentially getting banned in the US. The other thing is that you might be fleeting. Hey, you might get canceled. You might not want to do this forever. You might retire. Like you might not want to make YouTube videos for the next 30 years. So one of those two things can happen to you or will happen to you, which brings me into my second point. How many influencers do you know or athletes do you know that have really stayed relevant long term? It's a very small proportion of them, right? If you think of someone like in athletics that's still famous, they're probably doing something to keep themselves relevant. Like if we think of Shaq went and did like 1 billion different things to stay relevant. But that's not every athlete that you can think of. That's not every person that's ever been on a sports team. It's a very small number. And that's why I say I think most influencers will go broke. It ties into my third point. What did Shaq do differently that kept him relevant versus any other athlete? And how you as an influencer can do something different. The Fat Jewish at this event spoke about how it was so important to build other streams of income because he knew he wouldn't stay relevant forever, whether it was because of the platform shutting down or him just not wanting to do it. He built all these different income streams, which is something that Shaq did as well. Shaq owns like a bunch of restaurants and does all kinds of different things to keep that income coming. When you get a lot of money coming towards you, whether it's working your 9 to 5, whether it's being a famous athlete or an influencer, it's very common that something occurs called lifestyle creep. That's where you start getting the G classes, the mansions, you upgrade your car, you upgrade your apartment, you upgrade your wardrobe, you upgrade all these different things. No matter what the scale is, you're upgrading. But when you upgrade like that, you're setting a certain standard for yourself, which means that you're either change your desk to continue working your 9 to 5, or that like 67%, I think it is, of NBA players that retire within 2 years go broke, because you weren't managing your money well along the way. You were expecting these certain calibers of lifestyle, but you weren't investing money to make sure that that stayed with you long term. And that's why if I was an athlete or if I was an influencer, if I was any of these things, I'd be making sure to have like a panel of people helping me manage my money if I didn't know what I was doing, and be investing like over 80% of my income, because I know in my head that this is fleeting. That's why I think most people will end up going broke, because they're not doing that.